Hi there, just another unprofessional video from me just to hopefully help some other fellow Benelli TRK 702 owners when they want to add things to their bikes, such as lights, which I've just done, and also a Satnav unit I've finished off wiring up. So I recently bought the Heed upper and lower bars, which I did a little video about. Once I got them installed, I wanted to put the auxiliary lights on, so that's what I've been doing this weekend. Oh, let me just try and get myself a bit more comfy. The lights I bought were the Oxford auxiliary lights, very expensive, £172 I think they were. The reason I went for them, not the Amazon ones, was purely because these are E rated, which is a requirement in France I believe. And given that I'm going to be driving through France early September, I don't want to get pulled over. So I bought the expensive ones. So they're really good lights, very, very bright, but you can get a lot cheaper than that and they'll be just as good. So it's up to you guys what you actually put on. The problems I had with them were the Heed bars were 30mm, or they are 30mm. The brackets that came with the lights would only go up to 28mm, and I'm thinking I can probably get away with 2mm. I can get rid of that, no problem. So the problem I had wasn't that, it was more the fact that if I show you the original bracket, there's a nut just there, and you're supposed to be able to get a 10mm socket to tighten that up. I can't get a 10mm socket to even go in the hole. If it was an 8mm, yes, it would go in, but 10mm couldn't do it, which I was a bit gutted about, because the brackets themselves are really good quality. They feel nice, they're not big and bulky, they're really nice brackets, so I couldn't use them. So in the end, I ended up buying these. They're a bit more bulky, cheap. I think I paid £12.99. I got 4 of these brackets, just a packet of 4. They only sold them in 4s, they didn't sell them in 2s. So I bought 4 of them, and I figured if I bugger 2 up, I've got 2 spare ones. So that's why I did it. So a combination of using these brackets and the fittings and the nuts and bolts for the original brackets I had, I've managed to get them mounted to the bike. You can see I've got a big spiky nuts thing coming out there. I've just got to grind them all off, that's all, because that was one of the original bolts, but I'll get round to that eventually, which means probably I'll never bother. I'll leave them like they are. But the lights themselves are nice and secure on there. I haven't actually aimed them right and put them on, finished putting them on as in aiming them, because I got to wait for the dark to see where the light goes, and make sure I'm not dazzling people, but that's not a big job. So I thought I'd actually show you how I actually wired these in, because they came with a bloody great wiring loom, and there's a lot of wires to bury in a bike, and as we all know, these Benellis aren't easy to hide wiring because there's not a lot of room, as you can see underneath there. So first thing I did was I actually mounted the lights where I would like them, which is on the front there. The wire then I fed for the left straight through this gap here, yeah, and it comes out here. Then I took this off, which is just an Allen bolt there. Take that cover off, and there's plenty of room there for you to feed the wires through behind this one and behind here, so they come out under the tank here. As it happens on this one, where the light and the wiring loom meet, the plugs are right behind there, so absolutely perfect point to aim for there. Once they're in there, you just put that back on, do it up, and the wires are nice and safe and they're hidden. So the wires then come out from under the tank and they go all the way back here, as you can see, lots of them, yeah, and then there's the relay for it, yeah. Now it took me a long time to route them all through and just bury them, so they're nice and solid, they're not going to vibrate, they shouldn't short out because they're nice and safe. The right hand side's exactly the same, so I won't show you that. Exactly the same. The only difference on the left is you've also got the switch. Now the switch wire, the loom part is there, so the switch plugs into there, and then you're supposed to put the switch all the way through to the top of the handlebars, and that means taking bits off the bike because there's no room to get a big connector. If I show you the size of the connector, yeah, you've got to get those connectors through there and feed them through so they come through down there somewhere so you can get them to handlebars. It was a nightmare, so I didn't bother with that. I just literally put the switch on the side down here. So there's the gear change, left foot peg. Directly above the left foot peg is the switch, and it's there like that. It's easy for me to grab, it's out of the way, that's where I've put it. So the wire for that is literally tucked up there under the tank, and it comes out here and it just connects directly to there. It's the easiest way of me doing it, and I'm quite happy with it. It's out of the way. I tend to not connect a lot of things directly to the battery, yeah, because it just causes problems in the long run if the screws are loose or anything like that, yeah. What I found was, from the battery, if you follow under here, there's a red, and just under this black thing here, there's two red positive terminals. Now the one on the left hand side of the bike here, the nearest side to the left, that there isn't a live positive. It's only there for the starter motor. So the one on the inside in the middle of the bike is actually a permanent live. So what I've done is all the positive connections I've actually put into there, and then they're all nice and tightened up. I haven't got to worry about them yet. All the negatives, the blacks, the grounds, I've actually put onto here, onto the where the seat catches there, yeah, onto that bracket there. All I've done is put the negatives into there. They're nice and secure. I haven't got to worry about them yet. So the only thing now then is the ignition live. So you've got a couple of options. You could splice into a live wire that's only on when the ignition's on, such as your headlights or your rear light or something like that. The only problem with that is you're messing with the bike's loom, and if you don't do it properly, water gets in, you're going to have problems at some point. Also, it probably will void the Benelli warranty. So I tend not to splice into the bike's wiring loom. What I've done instead is the ignition live for the lights is this blue one. So I've just fed it through to here, and it goes all the way under here somewhere and all that. You can see a mass of it there. Now I could cut a load of that off, but I haven't for now. Eventually, when I'm happy with the install, which I think I am already, I will cut that down to a more suitable size. What I fitted to this bike when I first bought it is what they call a Thunderbox from a company called Tech. So that there is where you plug all your accessories in. So what happens is you switch the bike on, you start the bike up. This won't switch on until it detects that the battery is getting charged, which is typically when your engine's running. I haven't had any issues where I've plugged it into the Optimate and then suddenly this fires up. So it seems to know when it's getting charged from the engine and when it's getting charged from an external source. So about 10 seconds after the bike starts and the engine's running, obviously it detects the voltage is 14.1, I think it is, and then it'll switch on anything that's connected to this. And the way you connect to this is, let's have a quick look. You've got a negative one there, which I haven't actually got anything connected to. That black wire is coming from the Thunderbox. So all I've done is connected the ignition live. So that green wire is from the Thunderbox itself. That's the live terminal. The blue one is the ignition live for the lights. So when the engine's running and 10 seconds, it takes about 10 seconds afterwards, what that'll do, the Thunderbox will switch on and it'll send current to this, and then the lights will switch on. to connect to these, you just literally pull the tab, poke a wire into there, I don't know if you can see that, and then just snap it shut. And then all you do is pull the wire and make sure it's not going to come out. That's as simple as that. So the green is the positive from the Thunderbox, the blue is the ignition live wire for the lights. Now the yellow one I've got on there is for the Satnav, because while I was wiring the lights up, I thought I'd put a permanent connection in for the Satnav as well, which I'll show you in a moment. So that's that. The rest of the loom is all down here, nice and neatly tucked in. Take your time routing all the cables and just making sure there isn't a lot of room for them to move around. Where you find they are moving, you can always cable tie them to the frame. Yeah. One little tip I learned a long time ago is, when you look at that now in say 12 months time, you think, oh my god, what's that wire, what's this wire? I tend to colour code the wires, especially when they're all black like this. So I bought a load of different coloured cable ties, little small ones, just a little cheap. So what I tend to do is, say anything Satnav related, I'll use say I don't know, a pink wire cable tie. So I'll attach a pink cable tie and just snap it off. Yeah, and then every now and then throughout the bike I'll put a pink cable tie down, so eventually it comes out, and you can't see these cable ties, they're just literally there to help you identify masses of wires. I use a different colour for each wire I've put in. Now the Satnav wire is only very thin, and that little connector down there, it took me 20 minutes to feed that connector through here and all underneath there. About 20 minutes I finally managed to get the connector to come out there, and I'm just simple routed it to come up to here. Now before I did that, I used to just plug my Satnav into the USB ports there, but I want to use those for other things, so I don't have to use them. I can use them for what I want to, not just the Satnav. So that's how I set the bike up. The only things I've got connected directly to the battery are a Scott Oiler X system, which lubricates the chain automatically. I did a little video on that probably 6 weeks, 8 weeks ago, so how I installed it. So that's connected directly to the battery. The only reason that's connected to the battery is because if I cut the terminals and put it into the Thunderbox, the warranty is voided. When I've got no warranty left on that, I'll probably take the wires from here and feed them exactly like I do for everything else. Yeah. The only other thing I've got connected to the battery is an Optimate charging lead, which I've located down here just above the rear reservoir. So that means I can just plug the bike in and charge it up as I want to. Yeah, before I did have it under the seat here, and it meant I had to keep taking the seat off every time I wanted to trickle charge the battery. What else I was going to cover? Yeah, talking of the Satnavs, I call it a Satnav, but it's actually an Apple CarPlay Android Auto unit. So if you've got an Android phone, it'll do Android Auto. If you've got an iPhone, it'll do Apple CarPlay. Now this is my third different one, so I bought a real cheap one off Amazon, and it was great, it worked, but every now and then it would disconnect and it's a bit of a pain. It was poor quality, but it was all right. Yeah, if it had got stolen off the bike, I wouldn't have been that worried. So I upgraded that one and I bought a Car Pro Ride, I think that's what they're called, off Amazon. Probably about 150, 160 pounds, something like that. That was a lot better, where it didn't disconnect. Absolutely brilliant, and I would have kept that. The only issue was the way it was, the mount. It was one of them ball mounts. It was very weak, and with this bike being quite vibrating, I could see that going to be weakness, and one day it'll just fly off on the road. So I've still got it, and I'll probably put that on my other bike, which is literally over there. Yeah, that's the one I run around on and blood bike on and go to work on. So for this one I wanted something nice, so I bought it's called a Chiggy, that's the name of the make. You may have heard of them. Now I bought, they do an AIO5 Lite and an AIO5 Play. Now the one that's the expensive one, the Lite, has got front and rear cameras. I don't know what else it's got, but there's a lot of wires to bury, and I wasn't really fussed about having front and rear cameras on the bike. So I went for the AIO5 Play, which is literally an Android Auto or Apple CarPlay unit. On that as well, it will also do tyre pressures. So I did buy the tyre pressure sensors as well, so I can actually monitor the tyre pressures. So that's ideal for me. Now that's actually wired up to the Thunderbox. So when the ignition comes on, I'll show you in a few moments. If I switch the ignition on, the engine will run for about 10 seconds, and then the Satnav will kick in, and at the same time the front auxiliary lights I've just fitted also come on. So if I show you that now, I'll show you the Satnav one first, means I've got it. Camera on that. You may not be able to see this much, but there you go. It's starting to fire up. There you go. And then Apple CarPlay will kick in a minute. So for about 10 seconds the Satnav will stay on, or the CarPlay will stay on, and then what it'll do, it'll give me a little summary of what I've been doing today, mileage and things like that, and then about 10 seconds later it'll just shut down. So there you go, I've done no miles or anything today by the looks of it, and then it'll just switch itself off, and there, it's off now. Yeah. So that is fully automatic with the Thunderbox. Yeah, it's permanently lived, where I don't need to use this now. I can use that for a phone or whatever else I want. So if I quickly show you the lights, it's a little bit awkward now. If I switch the engine on, well, as you can see, the headlights have come on, the auxiliary lights came on afterwards. Yeah. If I switch it off now, headlights gone off, the auxiliary lights are still on. It takes about 10 seconds, the auxiliary lights will just power themselves off. There you go, switched off. Yeah, I can still control them with the little switch down here. If this switch is off, in its off position, if it's in the off position, when I turn the ignition on, the lights won't come on in 10 seconds. It's only when that switch is in the on position will the lights come on. Yeah. That's about it, I think. Can't think of anything else I've done to the bike that would interest any of you guys. The only other thing I've got to do, yeah, I've got crash bags which I've got to load back onto the bike, which go here. Once they're in place, the wire here then, because it's loose, it's quite tight, but it will flap around in the wind. I'll just put a cable tie there to hold that wire in, but I won't do that until I put the crash bags back on, so that way I know I've got the bags in the right place, and I'll know the right place for the cable tie. Yeah, so other than that, the only other thing I've got on the bike now is an Insta 360 invisible stick thing. So you mount a 360-degree camera on top of there, and it films all around. I won't tell you how it works because you're bound to know already, but I'm experimenting with one of them at the moment, ready for our trip over to Belgium in September. So I'm hoping I'll have some good footage of that. So other than that, that's the rest of the video done, I think. So hopefully, if someone's out there and they're wanting to put lights or other things on, I've given them a little hint on how to do it, or ideas of how to do it. But yeah, it's hopefully this will be a good setup anyway. Yeah, thank you for watching, stay safe.